Hi everyone, this is the Nordic Venture Show, your guide to the exciting world of Nordic startups and venture capital. In today's episode, we're exploring a startup called Nobody Engineering.
Okay, so imagine like all this information, right?
Yeah.
Just hidden within the walls of buildings.
Yeah.
From, massive skyscrapers to like your corner store.
Right.
All this data that can like help with efficiency, sustainability, even comfort.
Absolutely.
But it's kind of locked away
Yeah.
in these like old systems.
Like a different language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what if there was a way to unlock all that?
Well, that's what Nobody Engineering is trying to solve. And they're doing it in a way that can help pretty much everyone involved.
Okay, so before we get into all that, paint me a picture of this like data dilemma.
Okay.
What's at stake here?
I mean, think about it. You wouldn't drive a car without a speedometer or a fuel gauge.
Right.
You need that information
Right.
to run efficiently and avoid any problems.
Yeah.
But a lot of buildings are running blind
Mm-hmm.
with all this important data about energy use,
Right.
system performance,
Yeah.
even things like air quality,
Yeah.
hidden away in these old systems.
So it's not just missing out on saving money. It's a bigger impact.
Absolutely affects everything from a building's environmental footprint
Yeah.
to the comfort and well-being of the people inside.
Yeah.
So imagine a building that could adjust its temperature based on who's there
Okay.
and save energy,
Right.
or, predict maintenance needs before something breaks.
Mhm.
Prevents costly downtime.
That makes a lot of sense. So where does Nobody Engineering fit into all this?
Well, they're kind of like master translators,
Okay.
bridging the gap between all these old systems
Uh-huh.
and the modern digital world.
Hmm.
They created what they call the independent data layer,
Okay.
which acts like a universal adapter.
Okay.
So it connects even the oldest building automation systems to modern software and applications.
Hold on. I'm
Yeah.
getting a little lost in the lingo here.
Okay.
Break it down for me a little bit more.
Okay.
What's so special about this independent data layer?
So let's say you have an old record player and a brand new Bluetooth speaker.
Okay.
Both great technology,
Right.
but they don't speak the same language, so you need an adapter so
Right.
you can connect them and enjoy the music.
Yeah.
The independent data layer is like that adapter for buildings.
Okay.
Allows those old systems to talk to new applications.
Hmm.
Unlocks a whole world of possibilities.
Yeah, wouldn't it just be easier to just rip out the old systems and start fresh? I mean, technology moves so fast.
You're right. Technology does move fast, but replacing entire building systems
Yeah.
is incredibly expensive and disruptive.
Yeah, that's true.
Nobody Engineering's approach is way more practical
Okay.
and sustainable.
Yeah.
They actually extend the life of the systems that already exist. They avoid unnecessary waste
Yeah.
and make smart building technology accessible to way more buildings.
Okay, so they're making it possible to upgrade without having to start from scratch.
Yeah.
I like that. But how do they actually get the data from these old systems?
Yeah.
It's not like they can just plug in a USB drive.
That's where it gets interesting. They developed something called the Isabel robot,
Okay.
and it's a game changer. Think of it as a software robot that understands the language of those old building automation systems,
Yeah.
even if all the documentation's long gone.
Okay.
Isabel can extract the data, translate it,
Wow.
and make it usable in a modern context.
So a robot that speaks ancient building code,
Exactly.
that's straight out of a sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
But how does that actually translate into real-world benefits?
Right.
Like, what can building owners actually do with this, like, newfound data?
Well, for one, they can finally see what's happening in their buildings.
Okay.
So imagine a real-time dashboard showing exactly how much energy you're using,
Right.
where the inefficiencies are,
Okay.
even potential maintenance issues before they become major problems.
So it's like giving building owners X-ray vision
Oh, exactly.
into their operations.
And with that kind of insight.
You can make smarter decisions
Right.
about energy consumption, building maintenance. It can lead to significant cost savings,
Right.
reduced environmental footprint,
Yeah.
and even a more comfortable and productive environment for people.
Okay, so we've got the data unlocked, we've got it translated,
Yeah.
but how do they actually put it to work?
Right.
It's one thing to have all this information, it's another to use it to make a difference.
That's where the Elise modules come in.
Okay.
Think of them as building blocks for customizing a solution for each building.
Okay.
They connect different building systems, whether it's lighting, HVAC, security,
Yeah.
and allow them to communicate and share data seamlessly.
So instead of ripping and replacing, they're integrating and optimizing
Exactly.
what's already there.
Yeah, and that's a key part of their philosophy.
Okay.
They believe in making the most of the infrastructure that's already there, minimizing waste and maximizing efficiency. I'm starting to see why they focus on those three groups.
Yeah.
The building owners, the service providers, and the district heating companies.
Right.
Each one kind of has a different piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. Building owners get access to the data
Right.
and the tools to make their buildings smarter.
Yep.
Service providers can use the data to offer new and innovative services, and district heating companies can use it to optimize their operations
Right.
and create a more stable and efficient energy grid.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
We've seen how nobody engineering is kind of tackling this data dilemma,
Yeah.
this really innovative technology behind their solutions.
Right.
But this all sounds pretty high-tech and complex.
Yeah.
Is this really something that can benefit everyone?
Right.
Or is it just for like these people with deep pockets and a tech-savvy team?
That's a great question. And it gets to the heart of what makes nobody engineering so different. They've kind of flipped the script on how these upgrades are usually financed.
Flip the script. Okay, now you've got my attention. Tell me more.
So if a building owner wants to, implement smart technology,
Yeah.
they usually have to spend a ton of money up front.
Right.
So it's a big barrier,
Yeah.
especially for smaller businesses or buildings with tighter budgets.
Right. So how is nobody engineering approaching this differently?
They've adopted this no upfront investment model.
Okay.
Instead of asking the owner to pay for the technology and the installation,
Right.
nobody engineering covers those costs themselves.
Wait, so they just give it away?
Yeah,
There's got to be a catch.
there is,
Okay.
but it benefits everyone.
Yeah.
So nobody engineering takes a percentage of the savings the building achieves
Okay.
through the increased efficiency
Wow.
and the reduced energy consumption.
So they're saying we're so confident that our technology will save you money, we're willing to bet on it.
Exactly.
Okay, that's a pretty bold move.
Yeah, it really speaks to how much they believe in their solutions.
Yeah.
They're not just selling something, they're partnering
Mm.
with building owners to create a win-win situation.
I like that. Creates an incentive for everybody to work together
Yeah,
to get that building performing at its peak.
right,
But what happens if the building doesn't actually hit those expected savings?
right.
Does nobody engineering just take the hit?
There are always safeguards in place
Okay.
to make sure things are fair,
Yeah.
for both sides.
Okay.
They work really closely with the building owner to figure out realistic targets
Okay.
based on like a real deep analysis of their systems and the energy consumption patterns.
Yeah.
It's a real collaborative process.
Okay.
Not just like one size fits all.
So it's more of a partnership than just a vendor-client relationship.
Exactly. They see themselves as an extension of the building owner's team,
Okay.
working towards the same goals.
That's really cool. It's not just installing the tech and walking away.
Yeah.
It's about that ongoing support
Right.
and optimization.
Yeah, absolutely. And that support includes giving building owners the insights that they need
Okay.
to make the right decisions.
So it's not just collecting the data.
Yeah.
It's about understanding what it all means
Exactly.
and how to use it the right way.
Nobody in engineering goes way beyond just giving you numbers.
Right.
They analyze it, they identify trends,
Mm.
and present it all in a way that's clear and makes sense
Okay.
and tailored to that building's needs.
So it's like having a data analyst on call,
Pretty much.
helping make sense of it all.
They give you the tools and the smarts to take the data and actually make improvements,
Mm.
whether it's saving energy,
Right.
optimizing systems,
Yeah.
improving comfort for everyone.
This data-driven way of managing buildings is pretty cool,
Yeah,
but data can be overwhelming.
absolutely.
So how do they keep building owners from drowning in spreadsheets?
Yeah, they've thought about that,
Ugh.
developed these intuitive dashboards
Mm-hmm.
and reporting tools that make it all visual.
Right.
So it's really easy to understand,
Yes.
even for people that aren't data scientists.
So instead of like rows and columns and all these members,
Yeah.
you can just like see how your building's doing
Exactly.
and see where you can improve.
They're giving building owners all the info they need
Right.
to make smart choices
Yeah.
without having to become data experts themselves.
It's not like they're trying to like democratize access to this kind of tech.
Yeah.
and make it available to a lot more buildings.
That's a big part of their mission. They believe that every building should have the chance to benefit from this,
Yeah,
no matter the size or budget,
right.
and to help create a more sustainable future.
Okay. I'm impressed with what they're doing and the impact they're having.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, what are some real-world examples of how this is all being used?
Yeah.
What are the tangible benefits?
One really good example is their work with an office complex in Copenhagen,
Okay.
just by putting their solutions in place. The building cut its energy use by over 20%,
Wow.
which led to huge cost savings
Yeah.
and a much smaller carbon footprint.
20%, that's incredible. And I bet those savings add up fast,
Yeah.
especially for big buildings.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the money.
Yeah.
The building also saw a big improvement in how comfortable it was for people.
Okay.
Less complaints about temperature changes and air quality problems.
So it's a win-win
Yeah.
for the owner, the environment,
Right.
and the people working in the building.
It just shows the power of using data to make decisions.
Yeah.
By understanding how the building was being used, they could optimize everything for maximum efficiency and comfort.
This is what I love about Nobody Engineering.
Yeah.
They're not just solving a technical problem.
Right.
They're creating a more efficient, sustainable,
Yeah.
and ultimately more human-centered environment.
A holistic approach that thinks about everyone's needs. The owner, the people inside,
Yeah.
the planet.
It's inspiring to see a company that's not just focused on profit, but on making a difference.
I agree. Their work really aligns with the global movement towards sustainability
Yeah.
and using resources responsibly.
It's clear that they're onto something big here.
Yeah.
But let's shift gears a bit and talk about district heating companies.
Okay.
How does their technology help them?
Yeah.
It seems like a very different thing than what we've been talking about.
It is different, but the basic idea is the same.
Okay.
So district heating companies have this growing challenge of managing their networks,
Right.
especially as we move towards more renewable energy.
Okay. Can you elaborate on that? I'm not too familiar with how these district heating systems work.
Sure.
Okay.
So traditionally, they've used large power plants
Yeah.
to generate heat,
Okay.
and then they distribute it to buildings through pipes.
Like a central heating system for a whole neighborhood or a city.
Exactly.
Okay.
But as we move to things like solar and wind power, the energy landscape is getting more decentralized. And that makes it hard for them to manage supply and demand.
Yeah. So with all these renewable sources coming online, it sounds like they've got a real balancing act.
That's it. They need to make sure there's enough heat even when the sun's not out or the wind's not blowing.
Right.
And that's where Nobody Engineering can help.
Okay. I'm all ears.
So by connecting the buildings to their data platform,
Okay.
district heating companies can see the heat demand in real time
Right.
across their whole network.
Okay.
This lets them do things like fine-tune their operations, anticipate those peaks and valleys in demand,
Right.
even set up demand response programs.
Demand response programs. Okay. What's that?
Sure. So imagine it's freezing outside,
Yeah.
and the system is almost maxed out. With demand response, they can actually send a signal to buildings that have some wiggle room in their heating needs.
Okay.
Maybe an office building can preheat a bit earlier in the day
Yeah.
when energy is cheaper. Okay.
Or a residential building could lower its temperature a tiny bit,
Okay.
just for a short time.
So instead of just cranking up the heat production to meet that peak,
Yeah.
they're working with the buildings to even things out a bit.
Exactly. It's like one giant thermostat where the district heating company is the one in control,
Okay.
making sure the heat flows smoothly across the network.
It's like those individual buildings are participating in the system,
Right.
not just taking energy.
You got it. And this kind of smart coordination only works if you have that real-time data.
Yeah.
And that's what Nobody Engineering provides.
Okay, I'm seeing the big picture now. They're not just making buildings smarter. They're actually changing the whole energy system,
Yeah.
making it more efficient, more resilient,
Right.
and more sustainable.
That's a great way to put it. It all comes back to this idea of tapping into all the hidden data that's in our buildings.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about the benefits.
Yeah. And they're pretty impressive. But what about the downsides? Are there risks that come with this?
That's a good question. And it's important to remember that no tech is perfect.
Right.
As buildings rely more on data,
Yeah.
being connected,
Right.
we need to be really careful about cybersecurity and data privacy.
So it's not just making things work.
Right.
It's making sure they work safely and responsibly.
Absolutely. Security and privacy need to be baked in
Yeah.
from the very beginning.
Oh.
Strong security protocols, protecting that data,
Mm.
and being really transparent about how that data is being used.
That sounds like a tough balancing act. How do we get those benefits without giving up our security?
Well, it takes everyone working together.
Yeah.
The tech companies, the building owners, even the people who live and work in the buildings.
Right.
We need clear rules,
Mhm.
promote best practices in the industry,
Okay.
and build a culture where everyone is aware of data security.
It's a shared responsibility.
Yeah.
We all have a part to play.
As the tech keeps getting better and better,
Mm-hmm.
it'll be even more important to talk about these things.
Okay, I'm feeling a lot more informed now.
Yeah.
We've talked about all the technical details,
Yeah.
the business side of it, real-world examples,
Right.
even some of the potential challenges.
Absolutely.
But before we wrap up, I want to get your take on where this is all going.
Okay.
Like, where do you see this tech in 5, 10, 20 years?
That's an interesting question. This is all still pretty new.
Right.
So many possibilities. We're just getting started.
Give me an idea. What kind of future are we talking about?
Imagine a city where the buildings are connected to everything.
Oh.
The energy grid, transportation, even our phones. Buildings that know what we need, adjust on the fly,
Right.
and help make cities better places to live.
Sounds like science fiction. You really think this could happen?
I think it's not just possible, it's going to happen. As tech gets more advanced,
Yeah.
the real world and the digital world are going to blend together more and more. Buildings will be smarter, more responsive, more connected.
Okay.
They'll be a big part of our lives.
That's exciting and a little scary at the same time. It seems like we're on the edge of a big change
Yeah.
in how we design, build, and interact with buildings.
I agree. And nobody engineering is right there leading the way with new ideas that are making a real difference.
Well, it's been fascinating diving into nobody engineering
Yeah.
and this whole world of building data.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts for our listeners today?
I would just say pay attention to the buildings around you. They're not just structures anymore. They're like living systems.
Okay.
Full of potential. If we learn to unlock it, we can make things better.
Yeah.
More efficient, more human.
That's a great way to end it. It's been great talking with you today.
Likewise, it's been a pleasure.
And for everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thank you.
We hope it made you think about buildings in a new way
Right.
and see how powerful data can be.
Right.
Until next time, keep exploring and keep learning.
Thanks for listening to the Nordic Venture Show. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more stories of innovation from the Nordics.